name is Neville Hernandez. I'm currently a senior enrolled in the Bachelor's of Applied Science in Computing Technology and Software Development program. Today I'm presenting my project titled Film Solutions. The purpose of this program is to help suggest movies for those moments when you are just browsing through all your options and you don't know what to try. Um, an app like this would help out with your selection. So let's get to it. About my project. Film Solutions is a movie recommendation app that helps users discover new films based on their preferences. It allows users to view trending movies, add them to their watch list, and receive recommendations based on the similar genre and cast. The backend collects trending data regularly and stores it in a database, while the front end displays that data in charts and personalized recommendations. I'll show you how it works, including the data being collected. So in this video, you are now seeing the home page where live trending movies are shown. Then you can add a movie to your watch list in this other tab. So basically you click on it, add to watch list, and then it will show up on that tab. We can see that there in the bottom, and your recommendations list will reflect that. If you add another movie to your watch list, your recommendations is going to change. And then as for stats, I made a bar graph, a line chart, and a pie chart. Each is tackling a different question. The pie chart is my favorite because it displays which genres are more popular, which we'll circle back to later on in the presentation. As for the bar graph at the top, it's looking at which movies were the ones who, it says it in the name, most frequently trending movies. The line chart is showing the amount of movies that were trending in each week, and I'll go more in depth with that in my findings. So the languages and tools I use for this were JavaScript, mostly for just scripting in front end and back end. I use React as the framework, of course. For back end, Node.js and Express. I chose to go with SQLite 3 because it is simple and lightweight. I didn't need to use something more complex or, I guess, ambitious. I've used MySQL before. I'm comfortable with it. I think this is my first project of a significant scope that I've made with SQLite, and it seems to have worked out just fine. I use Axios to handle API requests, and then recharts to help visualize the trending movie data in graphs. Then of course I use the movie database's API. The movie database is a website where um, that's where I've been fetching all the data on what movies are trending and stuff. And they have an API that's available for free. So I've been using that. Visual Studio Code has been my code editor, and then I've used GitHub to push some things there for um, especially there was one part of the week-to-week updates where we had to push to GitHub. So I put that on GitHub for that. And of course, it's always good to use Git for just in case you somehow do something that destroys all your progress and you're trying to go back to a previous version of your code where stuff was working. So always useful to have version control. Implementation. So this started as a basic movie listing app. Um, I always wanted to have recommendations. I didn't quite know how I was going to do that in the beginning, but I did know I wanted to be able to recommend movies. That was the main purpose of this. Um, as I started working on it, I found that an easy way to be able to recommend, I needed input, so the watch list became the way to get input from a user so that I'm able to recommend based on what they add to said watch list. Um, I I guess I could have thought of another way, perhaps, of like knowing what they actually watched, but I think that would have required actually having a site where I could track what they actually watched. But so just, I don't know, really just letting the user tell me what they're interested in watching later would be a good way to know, okay, this is the sort of thing they're interested in. I decided that genre and the cast were very important elements of um, what makes people watch movies. I have certain genres that I gravitate towards. I like thrillers, I like action, and those are the most popular genres, as we will see later. And I'm not a big fan of horror, so an app like that won't recommend a horror movie to me. Now, if you do watch a movie that perhaps is of the same genre, um, you're more likely to watch it if it has an actor that you like. So I weighed the cast overlap higher than other elements. Like, I don't think it matters as much what year a movie came out or what studio made it. I think people gravitates towards people, the actors. Um, so those were the two main elements and how uh, the app works in terms of recommending. Um, so yeah, I had a backend script that automatically collected trending data. Gave me some issues. I will talk about that a little later. But that increased the depth and usability of the application. So basically, as you saw previously, we have the bar graph for live trending movies, a line chart for movies trending by week, and a pie chart for movies trending by genre. So findings and results. After running the app and collecting data over time, I realized certain things. So basically, there are busier weeks for popular movies. I think we're all familiar with the summer blockbuster. In fact, this year in July, there's three movies that are, I think, very good shot at making $1 billion each. Um, Jurassic World. There's a new one coming out in July, as well as a new Superman movie and a Fantastic Four movie. And I think just because they're big franchises like that, they have a good shot at just selling a lot of tickets. And we see that also with the Barbenheimer phenomenon in 2023. Barbie and Oppenheimer were both very big hits and came out literally the same time. That's not a coincidence. There's certain times of the year which, for whatever reason, are strategically just better to release your movies. Um, and I think I noticed that as the year goes on, like from January is kind of like a dry month, it seems. And as the weeks go on, there's just more and more popular movies. It just explodes. February, you had a few. I remember like one of the first movies that I collected data on was the Captain America movie that came out in February. And then I guess there's a Den of Thieves movie that's still popping up. Um, and I think right now would be like Minecraft would be the biggest movie right now. But yeah, like so I was surprised by certain movies were able to remain popular for longer. Like a good example is Mickey 17. It's a movie that I myself am interested in watching. Didn't get to watch it in theaters, but I'll watch it on streaming later on. It's still trending. Um, so this might reflect that some movies, even though they might not be the biggest hits, they have an effect on the culture and people continue to talk about them online or something, and the interest is still there. Something else that is very obvious if you look at the pie chart in particular with the genres, family movies are not that popular. In fact, they're the least popular genre out of the ones that I chose to include. Thrillers are the most popular, and with 13 thrillers trending at a given time, and family movies, only five of them. Maybe that changes throughout the year, but during these couple months, during at least the time frame of like this semester, definitely thrillers are more popular, uh, which would explain why usually they get bigger budgets. Action movies followed as a close second. There was 12 action movies trending, and then comedies was like 10. Um, so yeah, just as an interesting finding. I was a little surprised that family movies aren't more popular, but no, perhaps they're not. Maybe not in this time of the year. Maybe when uh, kids aren't in school, maybe there's more parents taking their kids to watch movies. I don't know what to take from that, but that is what I can observe is definitely during this time of the year, thrillers are more popular than family movies. Um, as for technical challenges, so a lot of React emojis not rendering. That happened a lot. SQLite was not saving movies as expected, usually because of file path errors. I just simply saved the wrong file path name. Um, I had to switch ports a few times. I did mention that in some of the discussion posts, um, because sometimes there's a lot of like other programs running in the background and taking up a certain port. So I would just switch to another port and that would just fix the issue. But if you don't know that's what's going on, you could waste a lot of time trying to see why isn't this working, and it's just a port. Um, Once I'd run into the issue a few times, it's now one of the first things I look at. Okay, am I using the right port? So that was a learning experience. Um, and yeah, I had a lot of issues rendering graphs. It was my first time using Recharts. Never really used graphs for any coding project before, so a lot of learning there. And simply rearranging files here or there. I kept um, trying to start the React app, but not in the directory where it's supposed to be run. And then I was thinking there was something wrong with it. No, I'm just simply in the wrong directory. The server is in one directory, and then the React app is like deeper in the directory within that one. Um, which, of course, seems obvious now in retrospect, but I mean, I think that's the life of someone in software development is uh, facepalm whenever they run into an issue. Uh, as for successes and disappointments, visualizing live and saved data, that was a success. I can do both, so very proud of that. However, debugging Express took longer than expected. Um, uh, so, yep. Recommending based on user watch lists. I'm glad that was able to work. That was like the main focus of the project. And then disappointment was some initial trouble pushing to GitHub. I kept having these warnings, these things that wouldn't let me push, and I had to look at why isn't it letting me? What am I not clicking on? Just different little check marks in the Visual Studio Code when I try to do it. Things that you have to check, and it's like you. I guess I'm not that experienced with using GitHub, and you kind of have to like stage before you can push and all that. I've used it before, but um, yeah, I need more practice. As for what I would do differently if I were to redo this project, I would plan what I'm going to do with the database earlier as to save time in the future and not have to change things later on. Um, I guess this is something that we've been taught in other classes that to just have a plan, just sit down and like write a plan, generally what you're gonna do, what everything's going to look like. That's part of the, I'm assuming the way the whole course is designed is to kind of guide us through that process so that we could, think of what we're planning to do before we just jump right into it. So similarly with the database, I would have um, given that more thought before jumping into it. I don't regret using SQLite 3, but just the way everything's set up, I would have taken some more time before. Error handling and logging was something that I ended up adding later because, when stuff wouldn't work, um, should have set that in place in the beginning. These improvements would have saved me some time, and the automation of the data trending collection using the Windows Task Scheduler for the first time. It wasn't working, and I didn't understand why. So that was an issue at the beginning. But now I am more informed for the next time I use Task Scheduler to run a script in the future. So that's the bright side. I mean, I learned a lot doing this, so the whole the whole project was a learning experience. And that is the end. That is the end. Um, yeah. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. I appreciate the opportunity to present Film Solutions. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. It was quite enlightening to work on this. And good luck picking what movies to watch next time you have time to watch movies. Bye.